Sky and a high of 82 for you on Saturday afternoon. As we go on into the day on Sunday, let me rephrase that, say Saturday night into Sunday, there's that shower chance into Sunday morning with some extra cloud cover, but by Sunday afternoon, partly cloudy and just nice, highs in the lower 70s. Another shower chance kind of straddles Monday evening into Tuesday morning, maybe even an isolated clap of thunder there. We'll keep the middle 70s going, which is average for this time of year, and those 70s just keep on going toward the end of next week as well.
Rain on Saturday, you said late?
Yeah, it would
Sunday.
be really the best.
Okay.
And to be honest, it's really across our southern viewing area.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Keith. Have a good weekend. Well, happening this morning, some U of M athletes launch a Hail Mary effort to save their sports. A group of gymnasts are attending the Board of Regents meeting. A year ago, the university eliminated its men's gymnastics, its tennis and indoor track and field teams. So the move was made to save money and balance the number of men and women's sports at the school. But a year later, some of those eliminated athletes are still pushing to have their teams reinstated. School officials in Blaine urged drivers to be careful after two other staff members were hit by cars this week. One crash happened Wednesday morning in front of Madison Elementary. A teacher supervising a crosswalk was hit by a car. Yes, a supervisor injured and hospitalized. Blaine police say the driver, a parent, was distracted while adjusting her child's face mask and was given a citation. The principal says the teacher is for a focus on safety with more students being dropped off due to the bus driver shortage.
Just that increased traffic, we're seeing people going faster, and they're in a hurry, and creates an unsafe situation for our students.
So yesterday morning, a student at Blaine High School also hit a staff member working a crosswalk, sending them to the hospital. The student was blinded by the sunrise, and no citation was issued in that incident. It's 11:35 now. A grieving mother who lost her 12-year-old son to gun violence in Minneapolis is getting support from the community. London Bean's mother returned to the shooting scene yesterday, and she was joined by community activists along with state and local leaders calling for an end to the gun violence.
This problem requires all hands on deck.
We got to work it together. We got to come together, but we can't do it. No other thing. I know what we need.
The message that you are hearing loud and clear today is that we need all of us.
As for the investigation, Minneapolis police said the case is progressing, but so far no arrests. Well, Senator Amy Klobuchar shares details of her battle with breast cancer. Back in February, doctors at the Mayo Clinic found a small irregularity during her mammogram, and a biopsy confirmed she had stage 1 breast cancer. Klobuchar returned to Mayo to have the cancer removed and completed radiation in May.
It just made me grateful for everyone and realizing that every day is a gift.
Klobuchar admits she put off regular exams during the pandemic and is now urging everyone to get routine screenings, saying that she's fortunate that doctors found her cancer at an early stage.
put lapel mics on anyone, or are you all set with your mic?
I think we'll just wrap this now just a tad.
Okay.
You overestimated. Very optimistic. I appreciate that. How you doing, Seth? You guys gonna?
You want to come over?
Yeah, we might as well just.
Okay.
And then I'll just step straight back and
Sure.
move off to the side, so whoever speaks can just step straight back. So.
All set? Okay.
Let me know when you're all ready.
Yep.
Ready? All right. Good afternoon. My name is Jake Spano. I am the mayor here in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, and I just want to start by thanking you all for coming. Today, tragically, we had yet another anti-Semitic act in our community and a threat of violence against one of our pillar institutions, Beth El Synagogue. I'm joined by folks who will be able to give you some more detail on that, but I just wanted to say that before even I knew that this was going on, the Jewish community in St. Louis Park was in touch with our police department to activate action plans to keep everyone safe. And I think that the big takeaway for me right now is maybe confidence is the best word I can think of using, that our police department and the Jewish community in St. Louis Park have developed over the years a tight relationship and coordination around these sorts of threats. So as tragic as this may be, they will not diminish the Jewish community in St. Louis Park, and I say that as somebody who is not a member of the Jewish community, but certainly represents a lot of them, and so we're looking forward to the ongoing investigation, getting to the bottom of this, finding and prosecuting the person who did this. So with that, I'll introduce Steve Huntings from JCRC.
Maybe.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Matt Walzer, the managing director at Beth El, and our primary goal is to serve our community and our congregation. And as we were informed late last night from the Anti-Defamation League about the threat that came in from them, we are very grateful for our relationship with the City of St. Louis Park and the JCRC. Steve will talk in a moment, Jewish Community Relations Council, to be able to navigate local and federal authorities to make sure that the investigation continues and that we're able to continue serving our congregation and community. This doesn't stop our ability to serve our community, so we want to make sure that it's known that our community is still vibrant, we're still serving, we're still making sure that we're there for our congregants, our rabbis, our cantors, our clergy, and our leadership. We're all there for them, even though we are virtual for today and tomorrow. But we look forward to continuing to see the investigation through, and again are grateful for the partnership to make sure that we can leverage expertise like Steve and his team provide to make sure that things are safe for our community.
Thanks, Mayor Jake, Mayor Spano, Matt, PIO, Jackie Smith. I'm Steve Huntings. I'm the Executive Director of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Minnesota and the Dakotas. I'll echo Jake's thanks. Thanks for covering the story, even though it's difficult. This is important news for people to understand and assimilate at this time. It's Friday afternoon. It's the Sabbath. We say Shabbat Shalom, peaceful Sabbath to people. We're in the middle of our high holy days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So keeping in mind, there's a lot of reasons to smile if you're an American Jew. I always tell people that there's never been a better time to be an American Jew than in, say, September 2021. That does not mean, however, that we don't appreciate the fact that there are pathological, malicious anti-Semites who do things like send threats via the ADL portal about Beth El Synagogue, which happens to be my synagogue, to want to say huge thanks to the city of St. Louis Park. My family moved to St. Louis Park in 1949. I've had a continuous presence ever since then. And the relationship with Chief Harsey, law enforcement, all city of St. Louis Park services is outstanding. And Jake, as you know, the partnership is really important to our community. Many other Jewish institutions are located in St. Louis Park. The community will remain vigilant and calm. Those are the watchwords of the day. We've been working with all levels of law enforcement, local and federal, our national partners, the Secure Community Network, as well as ADL Midwest, our regional partner. It's good to know that all of the pieces in the law enforcement realm, in the Jewish community security realm, are working together very well. It's important that intimidation and oppression not carry the day to the extent that that's possible. At the same time, the synagogue, as you've heard from Matt, will take all prudent precautions to make sure that everyone is safe at all times. And I just want to say to everybody that's gathered that the Jewish community is very vibrant. We see our work on behalf of all communities in terms of community security. You might note that we just had a vandalism incident in the Hmong Cultural Center on University Avenue in St. Paul. So we're very well aware that attacks on other cultural institutions, the Dar el-Farouk mosque bombing in 2017, that we're all together, that an attack on one institution is an attack on all institutions. And it's important to keep this in mind because we all stand together in solidarity. So thank you very much.
What can you tell us about the nature of the threat? Was it like a bomb threat, a shooting threat? What type of violence are we dealing with here?
Well, I think it's an ongoing investigation, right? So details will sort of come forward, I think, over time. But the understanding was a threat was posted on an online message board that was then directed, it was sort of more general, to a Beth El Synagogue, which then was clarified by this person to mean St. Louis Park's Beth El Synagogue. Outside of that, I don't have any more information about the details of what was said in the message or anything like that.
Do you know if there's any reason to believe that it was a credible threat?
I couldn't answer that at this time.
And do you know if there have been any arrests or any leads as far as who made the threat?
Not that I'm aware of at this point.
Can someone talk about the safety plans for today and tomorrow? We saw a bunch of police out front of the synagogue.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some surveillance units.
Yep. So we have a detailed plan that we work through with our Jewish community for instances just like this, and they involve different sort of actions depending on the nature of the threat. And in this case, we've got directed patrols that are visiting the Jewish Community Center, the JCC, and some of the schools in our community and other synagogues. So it will vary from time to time what the nature of the threat. Obviously, we've got it's the beginning of the school year as well, so there's a lot of kids going in and out of schools this morning and this afternoon, and we'll be keeping a close eye on those. But we also then, especially for this time of year and on a Friday as folks enter Sabbath, we have a really developed network of messaging and communication that our police department in the city works with folks in the Jewish community who may not necessarily be using their phones, right, or answering a home landline or their cell phone, to make sure that awareness is spread throughout the community about those threats. So that's a long-standing piece of our sort of emergency management plan that our police department has.
Maybe a question for some of the synagogue leaders, but how many preschoolers attend the preschool, and how many people normally attend services on a day like today and tomorrow? So how many people overall are kind of impacted by this?
Sure, we have a preschool very robust. We have approximately 120 kids in our preschool, and our general congregation kind of post-COVID, as we kind of entered getting back in person, has been anywhere from kind of 75 to a couple hundred in person. In non-COVID times, it's been closer to 300 to 400 a week. And so, again, I'll state again, as both gentlemen behind me have stated, in terms of the lack of intimidation, we'll continue to serve those people. We have a robust cyber shul that can provide services remotely, but that's how things are impacted in person.
Sorry to dominate the conversation here, but have you guys ever dealt with a threat of this nature before that's kind of forced you to cancel in-person learning and services? Have you dealt with threats before, and then to this scale?
I think Steve might be able to know. He's better in terms of history. I've been in my role for a couple of years, and Steve's 10 years longer.
He does an outstanding job, Matt, at Beth El. You know, one of our responsibilities as JCRC is for overall community security. Folks may remember back in 2017 the series of bomb threats against Jewish community centers throughout the world, St. Paul and Minneapolis. Each received one of those bomb threats. You know, certainly that was a significant period. You know, perversely it turned out to be an Israeli who was phoning in the bomb threats. But putting that aside, that was something that was highly disruptive of the community for reasons you can imagine. The JCCs serve young people, older people, people recreate there, people go there for social and cultural reasons. So, unfortunately, we had that experience in addressing the JCC bomb threats back in 2017. And then, since then, of course, we've had developments throughout the United States. I said before that we're fortunate to live in the time which we do as American Jews in 2021. Nevertheless, we've seen the attack in Pittsburgh, the attack in San Diego, the attacks out on the East Coast. So at the same time, we're mindful that there are people in the world who have attacked houses of worship of all religions globally, and it's something that we have to pay attention to. But at the same time, we keep in mind that in this country, we have wonderful relationships with law enforcement, cities, other communities and organizations to keep us all safe.
Just to kind of go back to that for 1 second, would this be the first time for this specific synagogue that in-person services would be canceled due to a threat?
It's the first that I'm aware of. Doesn't mean it's the first that there's been, but it's the first that I'm aware of. Yeah.
And keeping in mind there's still a cyber option, which is really important too.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
So will everything be remote for the foreseeable future, or how do you determine when it's going to be safe to return?
I think that's where we leverage our partnerships with the city, the St. Louis Park Police Department, JCRC, and the ongoing investigation to make sure we're following their recommendations to keep people as safe as possible before we go back in person.
Obviously, with Yom Kippur coming up next week, another high attendance time at the synagogue, what's the plan in terms of when a decision might be made for services, whether they'll be able to be held in person or not?
I can tell you that it was late last night that I was informed of the threat that came in, and so we're, call it, 18 hours into this, and there's already a very active investigation going on. So it does appear to be a priority. It appears that it's going quickly, and that they're trying to uncover as much as they can as quickly as possible, understanding the fact that we want to get people back together, but we need to follow recommendations and guidance that allow us to make sure that we're keeping people safe while doing it.
I think one other thing that I would just I would go back to a couple of years ago when the synagogue shooting happened in Pittsburgh. We had an interfaith vigil here in St. Louis Park. It was held at Westwood Lutheran Church, and the Buddhist monks from Wat Prom were there lighting prayer candles, and there were maybe 1,000, 1,200 people in that room. And when I got up and I gave some brief remarks, I talked about the fact that this is not something that is, the impact of this is not limited to the Jewish community, and the support is not limited to the Jewish community. And in fact, I think the analogy that I used was, if you can imagine paddling in heavy winds, right? You're in a canoe paddling in heavy winds. I asked all of the people who were not Jewish in that room to stand up, and I told everyone who was seated, these are the islands that you should look for when the winds kick up. These are the folks that are going to look out for you and protect you. So all of our neighborhoods, all of our community are all engaged in trying to support this community and our police to find out more about what happened and make sure that they can get back to life as normal as possible, especially during this time. So.
That's a good point. There are a lot of houses nearby.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any impact or concern for neighbors that they might,
The neighbors who live just north of us here are well aware of this dynamic, but we are always communicating with them about any real threats that we have actionable information that we can share with them. But we're not shy about making sure folks know about these things.
So they're not like locking down?
No, not that I'm aware of. There's not a lockdown in the neighborhood.
Maybe to make a point of personal privilege, if it's okay, Jake. It's on my mind. It just so happens Monday is the sentencing of the defendant Hari in the Dar el Farouk bombing case. Convicted of the bombs, powerful bombs that were placed in the Islamic Center in Richfield, and we should all be proud of the investigation, the prosecution, and the success in obtaining a guilty criminal conviction in front of a jury for it. But it goes to the point that there's sort of a Mobius strip of security, right? That we should be grateful that in Minnesota that an attack against a mosque was resolutely investigated and prosecuted. I'm actually going to speak at the sentencing hearing because we submitted a letter arguing for an upward departure for the defendant because of the heinousness of the act in attacking a house of worship, because of the impact that radiates out from such terrorism, and that's what it is. terrorism, in this case the bombing of the mosque and Islamic Center. And I want people to appreciate the fact that there's a great solidarity amongst the religious communities in Minnesota to support each other, just as there's great solidarity with the city of St. Louis Park and the Jewish communities. So I want people to keep, that's important for folks to keep in mind at a time like this. So thank you.
Final question from me, but I think people do have a heightened awareness about threats right now with the anniversary of 9/11 being tomorrow. Is there any indication that the timing ties into that, or do you have any thoughts on the timing of this threat and then obviously the big picture of 9/11 and a 20th anniversary?
The quick answer that I would give on that is I'm not sure anti-Semites sort of plan their schedule necessarily, right? Bigotry and anti-Semitism doesn't necessarily need holidays or calendars to express itself. I don't know that there's a connection between them. That we're still obviously in the early stages of that discussion and investigation, so I don't have any information on that at all.
You might have said the investigation is conducted by how many groups or oh, you're getting up here. Oh,
All right, if there aren't any more questions, I know these gentlemen have other places to be, so thank you very much for your time. Really
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody needs a business card or not?
Hi. Yeah.